Technology is changing the way we behave and operate. It's improving our lives from communication and transport to healthcare and connectivity. Across Africa, young people are using technology to drive significant change. Let's hear more on this from Africa 54 technology reporter Paul Ndiho. Hello, Paul.
Thanks, Esther. Technology creators are designing mobile-based businesses, participating in e-commerce, creating skills through online education, and developing tech-driven solutions for the most pressing challenges. I spoke with Dr. Teju Baba, a West African physician, podcaster, and author of 50 African Pioneers, about how he leverages technology.
Technology is really the key things to the changes that we will see, that we are seeing, and that we will continue to see. When I was growing up in Benin, I don't remember having access to a number of resources. I think one of the biggest aspects of how technology is changing Africa is the access to knowledge and the access to information. In Africa, you can see how technology is going around. People are really making the most of it. The problem now is the access to, like the cost of internet is very high. Let me share a quick, example with you. When I started doing my podcast, I didn't know anything about podcasting tools, like software and stuff like that. So I went on YouTube and I found a young man. He was 12 years old. It was literally a 12-year-old boy who taught me how to do podcasting. And that's fantastic. For me, it's amazing.
You brought up a very interesting point. You talked about the cost of the internet. In some cases, there is no electricity. So that means a significant number of people on the continent are being left out. What can African governments do to close that gap?
When you discuss with colleagues and friends from other countries in the continent, it's the same. People are complaining that, you can spend a whole day without electricity. It's really important. How do you make sure you can sustain a business without electricity? So it's a huge, unfortunate, common point between the different countries. I feel like the revolution around electricity needs to happen. It will impact everything around us, not just for for charging our phones or whatever, but really making the difference in terms of how we can use that resource to change the other aspects, especially around the technology. How do we use laptops? How do we use 3D printers? How do we, this kind of thing require electricity, unfortunately.
Nixon, former president of the United States, who said that if you want history to judge you correctly, you either write it yourself or commission somebody to write it for you. And in your particular case, you could not find that history, so you decided to write a book about African culture, right?
Yes.
So tell us more about that as well.
It's called 50 African Pioneers. We have a title in French and in English. Since 1880, basically, period starting 1880 to today, there are 50 people, 25 women, 25 men, to make sure we have good representation for every gender. We have, for example, art and entertainment, literature, health and medicine, sports and games, science, technology, engineering, human rights and society, entrepreneurship and education, governance and leadership. So you have all these criteria that's led us to get into a selection. And what the book does is to tell you about this man who was the first one to do something about technology in the continent. And there is his history here in French and in English. What he said is, our goal is to have leadership and expertise, not just in Africa, but globally. That was said in 1975. So I think he's a man of vision, as you can see. He was one of the first African computer scientists. And in 1994, he established the first internet service provider in West Africa. And when you read the text, you will see that he was in the US. he was working for a digital equipment company. He moved back to Ghana. He created the first domain names accredited by the international body for internet names, this kind of thing, ICANN. And he was really key. He was so critical in the development of internet in our continent and computer systems in our continent that I can almost safely say that if you don't have this kind of guy, we are not here today talking about technology. African people don't know this guy. And that was why I went into this book.
Dr. Teju Baba is a West African physician, a podcaster, and author of 50 African Pioneers. That's today's report. Back to you, Esther.
Thanks, Paul. Be sure to join Paul Ndiho each Wednesday for another fantastic tech segment right here on Africa 54. And that's our show for today. Be sure to watch Africa 54 on our website at voaafrica.com. From all of us here in Washington, thanks for watching.